Hello there, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. It is Robin, and I am back with another episode, or as I should say, or episode of Let's Talk Church. But I am in my leadership series talking about proper placement. Today, we are going to be talking about capacity. Let me tell you, this is truly one of the key areas that ministries have an opportunity to be a blessing to those that serve. What do I mean by that? Well, let's talk about it right after this. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I see you are on. Go ahead and say hello. I am looking in the comments. I see you, Carrie. So glad to have you on, sweetheart. Dr. Ray Hampton, thank you so much. This is going to be really good, so make sure you share that your girl is on. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube a little bit later after this goes off of Facebook, I would appreciate it, of course, if you would subscribe to my channel and, of course, hit that bell so that you are alerted when I go live again. All right. So I see you, Tamiko, I believe it is. Thank you so much for being on. Well, if you did not catch my initial first teaching in proper placement, of course, it is available over on YouTube. Please go over there. Your girl's trying to keep her watch hours up, so I would be honored if you would go and watch the videos over there, subscribe to my channel, and then, of course, hit the alert. I see you guys, Shannon Downs. Oh, Carrie says I'm super cute today. What? Yeah, your girl went and got her hair colored. Let me tell you, this pandemic has worked a girl out as it relates to dealing with my gray hair. Yes, I am determined that my gray hair will not survive, right? That it will not take up permanent residence in this head, right? So I went and got my hair done. So thank you guys so much for the love. So you guys, today, again, this is the second series in my leadership series. It's the second teaching, and I'm talking about capacity. So go ahead, and I'm coming, of course, from the Word of God. Exodus chapter 18 is where I am coming from. This is a very familiar passage. As a church consultant, I go in and I speak with churches all across the country, teaching from my WOW book. This is actually in my WOW book. So I am teaching a little part out of my WOW book. I'm going to expand as I do in my workshops. I'm going to expand in this teaching a little bit more than what's in the book. Hey there, Freddie Grace. Glad to see you on. I see you. I know, right? The gray hair is very disrespectful. Oh, Tamika says she loves my necklace. Thank you so much. I wanted to make sure that I represented y'all when I came on live. So here we go, you guys. Exodus chapter 18. I'm starting at verse 13. It says, the next day, Moses sat as a judge for the people, while the people stood around Moses from morning until evening. Verse 14, when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he was doing for the people, he said, what's this that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit alone while all the people are standing around you from morning until evening? So here is Moses. God has given him the 10 commandments and the law to the people. And he has Moses sitting there as the sole arbitrator, right, of the law. From morning to night, every single day, the people line up to receive advice, guidance, and judgment on the law from Moses. You know, as a leader, a lot of us find ourselves being at the beck and call of the people that we have been given assignment to lead. Even if you're not the pastor, but yet you are a ministry leader, there are people that have been assigned to you. And so from morning to night, can you imagine? I know how it feels just to have people text me and email me and call me. It can be quite overwhelming. But in Moses' case, you guys, that was the only thing he was doing all day. Talk about not being productive. So as I said, the story goes on that Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, shows up and sees what he is doing. Everybody type in the comment section, shows up. He shows up and sees what Moses is doing. And he essentially looks at him and says, "You are crazy. People are lined up around your tent morning to night, and it's only going to get worse." How many of you all are in agreement? Whatever you start, you got to be able to finish. Is that the way that you do leadership, the way you lead, the way you pour into people? Is that something that you can sustain? Is that something that you can keep doing and doing and doing? What if you need a break? What if you need a vacation? What if your family needs you? If the people are so used to being able to reach you morning, noon, and night, they're going to continue. As Jethro says, it is only going to get worse. In fact, he says, this is idiotic. You cannot do this by yourself. Verse 15 says, Moses said to his father-in-law, "Because the people come to me to inquire of God. When a conflict arises between them, they come to me, and I judge between the two of them. I also teach them God's regulations and instructions." Sounds like a preacher to me, a pastor. Moses' father-in-law said to him, "What you are doing isn't good. You will end up totally wearing yourself out, both you and these people who are with you. The work is too difficult for you." Everybody type the word difficult. The work is too difficult for you. You cannot do it alone. I am hoping as a result of this leadership series that you walk away with a better understanding, even a level of clarity as I talk about proper placement. Now, Moses was just trying to do the will of God. He did not think about what he was doing, how he was doing it. He just wanted to do the will of God. How many of you all are in agreement? I just want to do the will of God. Yeah, we just want to do the will of God. But before we start doing the will of God, we really need to think through our processes. Do we have, in fact, the capacity to do the will of God? Now, before some of you all kind of freak out, "Oh my God, she's saying, you may not have the capacity to do the will of God." Maybe not the way you're thinking you should do it. That's what I'm saying. If God gives you an assignment, does that mean that you're not supposed to get help? Does that mean that you're just supposed to be the only one that does it? Or does that mean that you're even the one to do it? Maybe he planted the idea in you, but it's for somebody else to do the work. I have people that reach out to me all the time and say, "Hey, I have this great idea, but I have no idea how to implement it." See, that's wisdom. They want to do the will of God, but they want to seek help with how to do the will of God. So Moses did think he could do it by himself. He felt like he was the only one. Listen to this, that was in touch with God. My goodness, today. Do you think you're the only one that hears from God about your assignment in your ministry? Does God only talk to you? I hope I am helping somebody on today. He thought that he was the only one capable of hearing from God about his assignment, and that he was the only one that God could count on to do it. Oftentimes we say yes because if we say no, then people are going to be disappointed. But this is what happens. When you say yes to something you should have said no to, you are, and I meant to bring my, y'all know I've been cooking more. I meant to bring down my measuring cup because I wanted to show you if the measuring cup holds 1 cup of water, the minute you put more than 1 cup, it spills over. So regardless of how good the ingredient is, it's wasted. It ends up on something that it was never meant to be. You know, milk is a really good ingredient, but when it spills out of what it was supposed to be in, you can't use it, right? So you got to keep in mind. Denise says, hey, sis, she says, that's why we all have different gifts. Absolutely. God will place people in your path to help you with your assignment. So when we can't say no, we actually take that opportunity away from someone else that could have said yes and that could have done a better job. Well, I just want to learn. But you already have these 3 things going on over here. Let's perfect those. Let's get those working and operating and overflow and the people, giving you praise, saying this is running so well, it's so awesome, before you pick up over here. See, when you spread yourself so thin, the people will let you know because they'll be frustrated. Yes, they'll be disappointed and they'll walk away. They'll say, I'm going to leave this to you. Yeah. And so now the ministry has taken a hit because you don't know what that leader, that volunteer that walked away, you don't know where they're going. They could potentially even leave the ministry. They could potentially even say, I'm through with this God thing because his people don't handle business right. You got to think about that. So, but his father-in-law came to the rescue. I am so excited about this teaching. Again, we are in Exodus. Let me make sure I tell you right. We are in Exodus 8, I believe it is. Let me make sure. 18, yes, Exodus 18, and I'm about to read verse 19. Jethro says, now listen to me and let me give you some advice. Listen, leaders, you got to be open to advice. Your way is not the only way. I live in Atlanta, and I can get to Florida by 75 South, but there are other routes as well, and each route will get me there. Now, 75 may be the fastest route by car, right? But taking another route doesn't mean that I wasn't successful. Oh my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Think about that. Whenever I'm coaching and I work with leaders, in fact, I've got a church that I'm working with their administrative staff and I put some strategies together for them. I'm always very careful to meet with them one-on-one so that I can get a clear understanding of their path. Because what happens when you bring people together, they become intimidated that the way they do things, someone else on the team may think is wrong. Doesn't mean it's wrong, just means that's their way. Now, if it's causing them time or it's costing the ministry money, well, then we need to work with them so that we can train them on another way. But we're not going to smack their hands and say, you're not good because you didn't do it our way. They just may not have known our way or another way. All right. So as a consultant, that's one of the strategies that I use. And it also helps me to get their buy-in, that they can trust me. Because I'm going to tell you, a kicked dog is only going to allow you to kick them so many times they're not going to come back. So those of you that are on these ministry teams and you talking about leaders and you don't like the way they do things and, they're not successful and I've been here all this time, listen, you're not helping them. And that's not what God put you in that assignment to do. He wants us to be a blessing and to help others. So let me keep going. Verse 19, now listen to me and let me give you some advice. And may God be with you. Meaning, I need you to hear from the voice of the Lord. Your role should be to represent the people before God. So he's saying, I understand your assignment. And you should bring their disputes before God yourself. And you should explain the regulations and instructions to them. Let them know the way they are supposed to go and the things they're supposed to do. But verse 21 says, but you should also look among all the people for capable persons who respect God. As a leader, it's your assignment to work yourself out of a job. Oh, let me let that resonate for a second. As a leader, it is your assignment to work yourself out of a job. You ought to be such a good leader that the people pick up what's necessary and can just run with it, and they don't need your oversight. And then that way, your high level vision, your ability to be able to take on, major projects, you can do that. See, some of us never get major opportunities because we're so possessive of minor opportunities. Think about that. And then we sit back and say, oh, they never asked me to do anything major. Well, that's because they're afraid that if they take you off of something minor, it's all going to fall to pieces. And then you're going to say, but I can still handle that as well. No, I'm talking capacity. Is it in your best interest? I see Prophet Joshua's on with me. Do you have the mental capacity to take this on? Meaning, are you going to be able to process the needs of the people and still love God and still love this church? Are you going to be able to look at your phone and be okay with, enjoying answering it? Or are you going to look at it and say, oh my God, who is this calling now from the church that needs me? Well, you're the only one with the key. You're the only one with the combination. Well, I can't just be giving the key to anybody. And I just can't be giving the combination to anybody. Well, somebody gave it to you. Somebody trusted you. Think about it. He says they should be trustworthy and not corrupt. Until you give people an opportunity, you don't know who's trustworthy. You don't know who's corrupt. Set these persons over the people, listen to this, as officers of groups of thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. And then let them sit as judges for the people at all times. And then he goes on to say, this is a perfect model, you guys. They should bring every major dispute to you, but they should decide all the minor cases themselves. Now, as a leader, it's really, really, really important that you support those that you put in place. And in order for them to grow and to see what their true capacity is, you have to release them. Now, I'm not saying you don't hold them accountable. I'm not saying that you don't check in. But what I am saying is you give them the opportunity. And if they fail, then you help them. You dust them off. You walk them through the process. People will appreciate that you cared enough to help them grow. That's another one of our assignments as ministry leaders. People should leave us better than how they came. We shouldn't want people to just stay where they are. That's called stuck. We don't want that. I have people that I have mentored and groomed to do things they never want to do. And they will tell you, I never want to do this. But Elder Ware saw something in me and gave me this opportunity. I didn't want it. I didn't ask for it. But now I love it. Or now I'm doing it as a business. Or now I'm helping others. Think about that. All right? Verse 21. If you do this and God directs you, then you will be able to endure, and all these people will be able to go back to their homes much happier. You ever think about why people may not want to come to your meetings? You're wearing them out. Yeah. You're getting there, you're frazzled, your notes aren't in good order, you don't really have a plan or a strategy because you're at capacity, right? So thinking about all you have on your plate, you couldn't come to a meeting well prepared. But think about it. If you identified some other people on your team to take some of the minor aspects of your leadership role for your ministry team, then you could focus on vision for that ministry team. When the house sets the vision, at my church, I'm so excited. Bishop declared this is the year of restoration. So as ministry teams, now we're doing everything that supports, that is in alignment with that declaration that has spoken over the house. Well, you can think about how you can implement something that supports that if you're overwhelmed, if you're at capacity, if all your good stuff is just running over. It's the lid has come off the top. Think about that. All right. So here's some questions, you guys, that I want to share with you. How do we help people recognize they are at their capacity? It's easy. This is one of the strategies I do as a church consultant, is I give them measurement tools so that they can come to that realization themselves. No one wants you to walk up to them and says, hey, listen, you're flubbing up a lot. You messing up tons. Things are falling through the cracks. Don't you think you should give somebody else a try? You're not going to be that successful if that's your approach. But if you use measurement tools, they will get that revelation themselves. All right? So think of ways that you can use, systems that you can use, even including SWOT analysis. I talked about that the other day. Let them see for themselves. Let them come to that realization. All right. Even a person's mental capacity. One of the things I like about spiritual temperaments is it helps them understand from a spiritual standpoint their temperament, or how they handle people, how they handle situations. Because once they understand their temperament, I'm able to speak to that temperament. And it no longer can be made about, well, you don't like my personality. This is about personal. No. This isn't about love, and this isn't about personal. I love you, and I think you're a great person. So it's nothing personal. It's all about you spiritually. And those people that may not have the spiritual maturity, they're not going to get there on their own. So you've got to use measurement tools to help them. All right. If this is helping you, put a yes in the comment box. All right. My second question. What happens when you don't admit as a leader that you are at your capacity? Oh my goodness, I'm telling you, I was just sitting there preparing this message, and literally like a sermon, I just was praying and God gave me these questions and answers. You lose the confidence of the people you lead. If you can't admit to yourself that you are at your capacity, you're going to lose the confidence of the people you lead. You think nobody sees that you're at your capacity. Oh, but we see. I'm telling you, running late, being disorganized, not having a plan. If I walk you to your car and your car is a mess, if you live out of your trunk, I'm telling you, all that signals that you are overwhelmed and at capacity. You have frustrated the people, and essentially you have become the bottleneck of your organization or ministry team, because nothing can flow. Nothing can flow because you're the bottleneck. You've stopped everything. All right. So we as peer leaders even have to help one another. Type peer, P-E-E-R, peer leaders. So I lead the singles at my church. And so if I see another leader that is my peer that I feel is at capacity, or the Lord has laid it on my heart, I reach out to them and say, as a peer, just checking on you. How are you feeling? How are you doing? Because they're not going to feel threatened because I'm not somebody that is under their leadership. We're peers. And I'm coming, of course, from a good place of wanting to help. All right, my third question. What happens when we as leaders are slow to make changes of people that are at their capacity? You will lose your right to lead the people assigned to you because they won't trust you. So you've got somebody on your team that you know is at capacity, but you're not willing to deal with it. You're saying, let's give them another month. Let's give them another 6 months. Then you look up and it's been a year. Then you look up and it's been 3 years. And their ministry or your ministry team has dwindled down to them and you because you were too slow to make that change. They're the bottleneck. No one on that team can grow or come up because they've stopped it. And you refuse to move them. Because when you move people, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, you still, ministry can flow. And I'm here to tell you that God will send you who you need. Sometimes we got to make tough decisions, but we got to trust God. That's a part of faith. Faith is the absence, right, of things hoped for. So you may not know it, you may not see it, but we still have faith that it is going to work itself out. So we all make mistakes, so don't prolong the inevitable. Listen, I've allowed you to stay in this position too long. I see that you need help. Here's the measurement tools that I'm using to justify why I'm sharing this with you. I ask you to do this, this, this. Here's what we got. Or XYZ filled out their survey, and this is the feedback we got. Or this was your goal of X amount of touches. That's what I talk about in my book. There should be 7 touches so that our visitors, our new members even, sorry, not visitors, but our members will know that we really appreciate them being a part of the ministry. And your ministry didn't do its part. Why? Because you didn't get that person that's on your team in the right position. So it's okay to tell somebody, time out, we got to stop. And they may say, oh my God, I feel like a failure. That's okay. Failure shouldn't always be seen as a negative. Failing is a part of success. Why? Because it tells you this is no longer working. So that now let's pivot and do something else so that we can achieve success faster. Stop letting things bleed for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years because of title. Just because somebody's an elder, just because somebody's a minister, just because somebody's been the director for 6 years, 8 years, it doesn't mean that it might not be time to stop, to put a halt. It's okay. Yeah, we all have opportunities to grow. So don't prolong the inevitable. Failure is a part of success, so call it that. Stop letting change be seen as negative. It is actually positive. All right, number 4. How does not changing impact the overall ministry? I think that's where we miss this, you guys, is we just think about our own respective ministries, but think about the overall church. How does it affect that when we don't make changes? The right fit leaders lose the opportunity to get in position. Think about that. Some of you, I've been the head usher for 9 years. Wow. I just don't believe that there's a reward in heaven that you get to say, well, God, I was the main usher for 8, 9 years. No. If your assignment is for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, that's it. If vision has stopped, it's time to move out. If you don't have a vision for year 4 that is in alignment to support the overall vision of the ministry, that's it. It's time for you to go. It is time for you to go and serve somewhere else because you're blocking the person that God may have given the vision to. All right. Number 5 is, what do you do as a leader when that person refuses to admit that they are at their capacity? What do you do when that leader refuses to admit that they are at their capacity. All right, hold on one second, you guys. I'm trying to share something here. Let me make sure I do this right so I don't mess up. Um, why is this doing this? There we go. All right. So, what do we do when the person refuses to admit that they are at their capacity? You do the work and help them. You reduce their workload, or you give them a new seat. It's the top of the year. It's perfect timing to tell someone, I'm no longer going to need you to do A, B, C, and D. I'm only going to need you to do A and B. So thankful and appreciative for what you've done. But at this point, I just need you to do A and B. Or thank you so much for your leadership. But at this point, we're going to move in another direction. I want you to be prayerful as to where you think God needs you next. Give it 2 or 3 weeks. Come back and meet with me so we can talk through it. Don't let them just say, oh, well, I'll go lead the ushers. Absolutely not. There's some processing that needs to happen. There's some growth that needs to happen. There's some honesty that needs to happen. If you've been measuring and you've got tools that you can share with them, once they kind of get through the shock of the revelation that they're not going to be leading, then you need to walk them through that process, all right? So we don't want to just leave them out there. Sometimes people don't accept change well, and so we got to give them time to process it. We don't want them bleeding all over the people, feeling like they've been hurt and fired. That's why it's important. Remember this, you guys. People fire themselves. You don't. The reason why people don't know that they fire themselves is because you don't show them that. That's why measurement is a key factor in this. That's why coaching and counseling is another aspect. You got to give people updates. Don't put somebody in place in January and then for 2 or 3 years let them run amok and then want to get rid of them. That's not fair. You need to check in on them every 6 months. That's why it's really important as ministries that you're conducting regular leadership trainings. Give people the training that they need. This coming Saturday, I am working with a ministry that's got a couple hundred leaders that I'm going to be walking through a lot of the principles in my book, as well as even another teaching on capacity. Even though we're virtual, you can still do leadership sessions. Even if you do them for your team yourself. Have your entire team read the same book and then do a book club strategy as a part of your leadership session. The first 15 minutes of your leadership meetings, you're going to discuss a chapter in the book. Simple. All right. But until you put some work in, I'm telling you, you're going to, when you compromise your process, you compromise your results. So whatever your process is, that's what you do so that you'll get the results that you need. Okay. All right. Let me see. Prophet J. Smith says, I do supervision every 2 months with every leader individually. Wow, that's fantastic. Tanya says, true. I just want to be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord. Prophet said, there's no crown for head usher. That's right. Absolutely. All right. Let me see. What number was I on, you guys? Let's see. That was number 5. Number 6. Will the moved leader lose respect? Listen, if you do this in the right way, they're not going to lose respect. They're not going to lose respect of the people. They'll actually gain respect by walking out this change maturely. You just have to help them with this. When you tell someone, particularly someone that loves what they do, but maybe they're no longer fit to meet the needs that you have for that ministry, then you've got to walk them through the process of how to transition. Lord knows, look at the mess that the country's in right now because, there's one group that did not hold our president accountable for his actions for an entire 4 years. And so now that something didn't go his way, because everything he's wanted, they've supported or stayed silent. Now that something didn't go his way, he doesn't know how to transition. And he has lost his mind. I don't believe he's lost his mind. I believe he lost his mind a long time ago. But because they never addressed it, now we have what we have. All right. Number 7 is, how do you encourage an unmotivated leader to make this change? It's simple, you guys. You have to be firm and you have to be consistent. When that leader says, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and stay here. I'm going to keep this position. You know, my team, we got some plans this year. We're going to do some things differently. If God spoke to you that it is time to move that leader, then you have to be firm. If the results from your measurement tools shows you that that leader is not being effective and they are just a bottleneck, then you have to decide, am I going to allow them to dismantle everything that I've worked so hard to put together because of their feelings? No. You have to be firm. You do it in love, but you have to be firm and you have to be consistent. If you tell that person, listen, we're going to meet in 2 weeks to talk about it, then meet with them in 2 weeks. All right? And follow this same pattern with all your leaders. If you're going to meet with leaders once a quarter, meet with all your leaders once a quarter. Don't just call in the one that you need to make a change. Don't be that busy. If you, as the pastor, executive pastor, if you're that busy, then call on your director of ministries. Someone has to be responsible. There's got to be a lead, all right? So have a plan and let the plan walk itself out. Do not quit or give up when it gets tough. There will be times that it gets tough. They may come up against you. They may start a letter writing campaign. They may ask who they think is your favorite to start calling you and pleading their case. No, you have to be firm and you have to be consistent. All right? Because, thank you, Denise, people fire themselves. Now, remember, you are only as strong as your weakest link. You have to think about the damage that that person is doing by staying in position. Now, if they're messy, oh my God, they can just destroy the ministry just from their mouths alone. But if there's someone that's not effective because they don't have the right skill set, or again, they're at their capacity, then you've got to change them out so that you can experience growth. That's like having a plant that you don't water. You just trust that the sun is going to make it grow. No, we need water. Plants need water. They need water and they need sun. All right? And then number 8. Does everyone have to know what's going on with that leader? No. Everyone does not have to know what's going on with that leader. You know, as the church, we have been found guilty of killing our young. Meaning, when people do something wrong, we throw them out to pasture. You know, we do not help their transition process. So be very careful. I'm one that has had to experience a public transition. And so it really wasn't because of capacity, but still, nonetheless, you have to be careful. Now, I was mature, and so I was able to overcome and not get eaten, right? I could have been because of the way it was handled. So that's why I'm extra sensitive. Is I encourage leaders to find a way to handle the situation in a way that you would appreciate if it were you. I've worked with a church that they had to transition a couple people. And when they brought me on board, I said, nope, because you don't have the proper measurement in place. You don't have the proper documentation in place. See, people get amnesia. Once time passes and they feel like I'll just keep slip sliding, they get amnesia. Y'all type in the comments, amnesia. So you got to be able to show them, oh no, here's the proof. Yeah, we talked about this March, we talked about this in July, we talked about this in October. So it's time. All right. So, but here's what we're going to do. I'm going to walk you through this process. I'm going to give you these tools. I'm going to send you to a class so that you can learn systems. You can learn, the Microsoft Office suite, or you can learn the Adobe, Creative suite, whatever it is. Have a plan in place. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to put money towards that plan. Literally, you can go find videos on YouTube and put together a playlist and send them that playlist and tell them, go watch all of these videos, take notes, and then come back so we can discuss it. Or maybe set up a time for them to talk to a therapist, a mental health expert that can help them understand how to process change. Doesn't mean that, they've got some mental issues going on. No, but they just need to know from a heart standpoint how to process change. A lot of times people process change as a rejection. I'm not rejecting you because I'm changing you. I'm changing you because it's not a right fit. I don't not love you because I'm changing you. No, it's because I love you, I'm changing you. I'm just putting you where you will grow. Yes, I want everybody to win. I want everybody to soar. I want them to be victorious, and I want them to love what it is that God has entrusted them to. But a lot of times, we're guilty of putting people in place because we need a warm body. We need somebody that is faithful. We need somebody that is loyal. And so as your ministry grows and now you can put the brakes on and you could do some assessing, you realize that person was good for that time, but now they can't take you where you need to go. So the way you do that is dealing with their capacity. So I hope that this helped you guys. Let me look in the comments and see what the questions are. Thank you guys so much. Let's see here. That's right, Prophet J. Smith, who they think is your favorite. Denise says, shouldn't a leader also recognize the other end when someone grows out of their position too? Absolutely. It's the same thing. Capacity. If you've got someone that has excelled and they can soar somewhere else, same thing. They may want to sit there because they're comfortable and it's easy. Oh, this work is a no-brainer. Yeah, well, then you need to come and prick them. Yeah, same thing. Okay, you're good over here. We got that rolling, but now we're going to move you over here. Particularly when you're talking about paid salary people, you definitely want to make sure that you are maximizing your budgets. Thank you, niece, for that. Tanya says, what do you do when your pastor says he's shifting you from one position and puts you in another position, but you're still waiting to be assigned to that position? That's why I said you have to be firm and you have to be consistent. Now, because I understand that pastors typically may not have the experience as it relates to human resources management. So listen to what I'm saying, you guys. As a pastor, I'm prayerful that they're spiritually led, right? But of course, I know that they have to operate in the natural as well. And a lot of times, those processes are not their area of expertise. And so that's why they have a human resources person that can help manage that. Even with me, that's why I consult with churches to help pastors migrate people to the right positions. If the pastor doesn't have somewhere to move that person, but yet they need to get them out of their current slot, well, there's a way to do that. There's a way to communicate that. Let's put a timeline together. Let's figure out what we can do in the meantime. Change, the best part of change happens on the other side. All right. So I don't want to force anybody. I don't want to rush anybody. And maybe that pastor is just waiting to identify, to hear from God even on where the best place for you is. So, don't grow weary in well doing. It might be the Lord's way of giving you a break, letting you go and sit down and hear from him, particularly when we're in a season of fasting like we are in my church. Listen, to be told, you can rest and then we're going to come back around and figure out what we need to do next, I'm good. Why? Because my identity isn't tied to that position. My identity isn't tied to my title. So you got to understand, and that's why it takes work. That's why I always tell my pastors, you got to make sure there are people that their identities are attached to their titles and to their positions. And if that is the case, then we got to work through that, because we don't want to leave people bleeding, because now they think they're of no value because they don't have that title. So that all takes revelation. It takes growth. So, and again, that's why I'm saying even about having a mental health person kind of help you with that, because you don't know what you're doing in doing that could trigger something else. And then now you got a whole mess on your hands. So you want to avoid that. Okay. Yep. Some don't understand change is a form of love. How do the leaders handle when the pastor has reached their capacity and is holding back the ministry? That's a God thing. So she's saying, when the pastor is at their capacity, you have to pray, be very, very prayerful that as a leader, that your trustees or your council or the advisory board to the pastor, that they're hearing the voice of the Lord, and that they're able to have honest communication and conversation with the pastor. Because the same thing, a leader is a leader, whether you're the senior pastor or you're a ministry leader, we all have lids. And so once we've reached that lid, we have to be honest about it. And so we do not want to be a bottleneck, definitely as a senior pastor, so that your church stops growing. And that's why people will leave. They'll just go to another church, right? And so you don't want that to happen. So again, it takes prayer. We want to do things decent and in order. If you are, a Sunday school teacher, you can't go tell the senior pastor that you've reached your capacity and you got to go. That's not how this works. All right. So whatever the process is, if that pastor was hired, then that committee, I would say, would be managing, the observance of their growth, their observance of vision for the house. So just make sure you follow protocol as it relates to that. Let's see. Yep. Denise says sometimes the leader is threatened by change. Absolutely. You're welcome, Tanya. Yes. Prophet J. Smith says triggered by trauma history. Yes. Be careful, because that is God's lane. Yeah, it definitely is. I know a lot of leaders that are very, very passionate about serving in their ministry. And they'll say things like, I was here when that pastor came and I'll be here when that pastor leaves. You got to be careful, though, how you handle leaders. Because what you give is what you get. Now, that part, the way I said that is not scripture, but you sow, you reap is. All right? So, think about it. Well, I hope that this teaching on capacity has helped you. Was this good? Give me a yes in the comment box. Like this video if this was a blessing to you. We got to truly pray for those that are in a place where they're feeling overwhelmed and they have no idea that they are at their capacity. We need to pray that those that we lead, that they understand that we are leading from that our heart is in the right place, that we want what's best for them as well. So try not to make things personal. Try not to make things ever about love, right? We are just making sure that we're all growing and that we are all being blessed, right? I still love you in the position or out of the position. It's nothing personal with you in the position or out of the position. We can still go to lunch. All right. Thank you, guys. God bless you.